Welcome to your latest episode of A Day with Dre. Thank you for tuning in. Election Tuesday's passed. Let's get into it. I'll be on my normal bull, of course, but today is going to be political. We'll talk about what the results of some of these things that have happened around the country mean and why I think they're headed that way. If you're a non-political person, first of all, I don't know why you're here, because I do talk about things that are inherently, because being human is inherently political. You should always care about things that are going to affect you or people you care about, but whatever, that's neither here nor there. I don't know. I'm not wired that way, but shout out to you if you are. But we're going on a month of the government shutdown. I think the federal government's been closed since, I don't know, it's been closed since like the beginning of October. So people haven't been getting paid since the beginning of October. They cut off the food stamps, and that really has me upset. And we can get into all the food stamp stuff, and it's crazy that you think that it's as simple as if you want to buy food, get up and get a job. Like, there are certain things that people should be able to do. You should wake up and be able to eat. You should wake up and have a roof over your head, especially if you're a child, right? Because we get so caught up in the people that are working and or not working, and they're humans. They deserve their dignity too. But like, what about the kids? Whatever. I don't even want to go down this rabbit hole, because we're casting all this judgment thinking we know everything about people. And then we'll talk about who's on food stamps and how much food stamp fraud there is, or I can't believe someone on food stamps is buying a Pepsi. Is it frustrating to see your tax dollars go to buying junk food? Maybe. Now, if your tax dollars are helping people that aren't trying to work live better than you, which I'm sure happens, right? No system's perfect. But because some people might take advantage of a system doesn't mean that it just shouldn't exist. That's just a crazy thing to jump to. And I don't know. I was on my way home from the airport and I drove past this pantry, and there's a damn line of people like stretched around the block. And that just rubs me the wrong way, because it's like, what are we doing? But I say all that to say this: the government's still down. People still need help if you can, right? Especially those of you that want to stick to your strong morals and your ability to help people. I don't know. Your good book says that you should be giving a certain amount of your income away to your church. Are you doing that? Probably not. But can you lend a loaf of bread? Can you throw some cans of soup? Like, can you help people that are starving? I'm watching kids miss school because they're trying to hold lines for parents that need to go to work. And all we want to do is look down on people that are less fortunate, because maybe we're mad that we were in a situation X amount of years ago and we didn't get the help that we thought we deserved. So because we didn't get the help that we thought we deserved, no one after you should get the help. For those of us that try to look at things as we try to apply Christian ideas on everything, but then you can turn around and have that kind of mindset, I'll tell you what, at the gates, you're going to have to answer to that. If that's you, you need to look inward before you look outward, because there's something wrong with your soul. What does that mean? But before we get into the specifics, if you could like, subscribe, share, comment, anything regarding A Day with Dre podcast, that would be great. All right. Appreciate y'all. So let's get to the main story. For some reason, the main story in America right now is the New York City mayor race. And I guess it makes sense, right? New York City is the biggest city. New York area has the, most people. Financial capital of the world, whatever, all the things that you want to apply to New York City. So of course that's going to be big news in America. But what's interesting is, like, the mayor of New York is it's not even the governor of the state. It's just the mayor of the New York City. But the amount of national attention, the amount of people, from politicians from all over, that technically outrank the mayor of New York, the amount of concern with the New York mayor race has been amazing, to the point where even like so many politicians that outrank, at the state level, the federal level, are so against Big Z, Mamdani, And even Donald Trump is out here and was endorsing a Democrat who was running as the independent to go against him for the mayor seat. It's kind of amazing. But he was a democratic, so or is a democratic socialist, and people try to use socialist as that scary word, big scary word, because there's levels of socialism, right? And they hear socialist and they're like, this is about to be Stalin's Russia, which is full blown their own flavor of communism. Just one word isn't a blanket statement, right? Not all Democrats are the same, not all socialists are the same, not all types of Republicans are the same, but they use that to scare you. So the Democratic Socialist wins the mayor race for New York. All right. Congratulations, whoop de doo. He ran on key points, okay? We're being told that prices are coming down, things are getting cheaper, but apparently New Yorkers didn't agree, because key things he ran on were housing access, food access, childcare, keeping prices down, making sure people had access to apartments in New York City, making sure people could have food, and it's not getting rid of private owned grocery stores, but also having some public or government sponsored grocery stores, right? So that's implementing a little socialism, making sure that buses are free by taxing people. I think it was that made over $1 million, 1% more or something like that, which is 10,000 more dollars. And yeah, when you make $90,000 a year, you hear a 10,000 more dollars. That's crazy. I'm not voting for that. But when you make, and 1% of a million is $10,000, and that's not even actually how the tax code works. Your tax brackets don't work that way, right? There's marginal tax rate, so it's probably 1% of like the excess $100,000 or something like that. Just, I'm trying to throw out nice, easy numbers. So it's really like, are you losing like another $1,000 this year? And I would argue that if you're making over $600,000 a year after taxes, then another thousand. Well, yeah, it's your money. You're losing it, but like it goes to a good cause, right? What you might lose in that is now, guess what? You're not paying 20 some $1,000, or if you're making that much money, you're probably paying 30, 40, $50,000 to have your child go to daycare. Like little stuff like that, right? It comes out in a wash, because he also wants childcare to be free. And he's using those extra tax dollars. That's his plan. It might not get implemented, but that's his plan. So I look at that and it's like, okay, your check is a little bit smaller, but guess what? You're also spending less. So you're probably getting more on the back end. But like, we don't have the foresight to look like that. And also, like, you live in Wyoming, so why are you complaining about what's happening in New York City anyways? You already said you hate that place and that you would never go to that place, but that's neither here nor there either. But why is this important? Because what it does is it shows us who we are as a country, or what we think like as people. And when I say we, I'm just talking about Americans, because obviously like not every American feels like this. This is just a generalization. But it's what's the big deal about this guy? Okay, he's socialist. All right. Not the first socialist, certainly won't be the last, and there's probably going to be more popping up. But what makes this different is he moved here when he was like 7, 6, something like that, from Uganda, and came from educated parents. He's only 34 years old. That's, to me, that's the craziest thing about all of this, is like, he's only a few years older than me, and he's got this motion, and he's running one of the most like powerful cities in the world. And I laugh about this, but it's not funny. The reason that he is so controversial is not, I don't even think it's the socialism. It's because he's a Muslim immigrant. All right. He's a brown guy. And the rise of this far right conservatism in America, that absolutely shakes them to their core, right? That shakes them to their core. You know, I have some examples here of just the different politicians that have said ridiculous. What's so crazy about this is elected officials, right? People that are supposed to be, their job is to advance the country, bring people together. All right. We've got a tweet here from a representative of a picture of a village in Uganda. And it's like insinuating, or not even insinuating, just saying, this is where Mamdani comes from. this is what he's going to do to New York City. All right. First of all, I already mentioned that he moved to New York City when he was like 7. He's an American. He grew up here. People that have lived in places for much less than almost 26, 27 years change more than like whatever. He's a valid citizen. And this birthright stuff and trying to insinuate that, well, you moved from a bad place, so now you're going to turn this place into that bad place is insane. I thought literally the whole point of the American dream, right, was he did it the right way. Okay. We have all this commotion about doing it the wrong way. So let's talk about how he did it the right way. His parents moved him here. He became a citizen, graduated from a college, all right, became educated, speaks like 5 languages, started at a local level. Now he's at a still local, but bigger local level. He's not a criminal. All the stuff about like we want to get rid of the criminals. If you want to come here, do it the right way. He comes here the right way. And now we're like, we didn't mean that actually. We say this is how we want you to do things, but when you do it and actually start making something out of yourself, our truth is actually we just don't want you here. Like it's just being exposed. All right. Not to be outdone by himself, the same representative posts another video or picture of the World Trade Centers after they had been struck on 9/11, saying, well, he's Muslim, so this is what you voted for. So just being Muslim, being the same religion of people that have done a terror attack means that that's what you stand for. And people are like, yeah, there's a lot of people that are like, yeah, how could New York ever have a Muslim mayor when radical Islamists did 9/11? But do you ever use that same logic and apply that to anybody else? Do you ever? Because if that were the case, should there ever be anyone of German heritage, German descent in government? Do you accuse every person that has any German in them of doing the Holocaust? Do you accuse every white Christian, especially from southern states, they have the same beliefs as the Klan? Do we do that? No, we don't. But for some reason, it was the same thing with Barack Obama. Even though I think he's like a Baptist or Methodist or something like that. His father was a Muslim. It was just like he's a sleeper cell for Al Qaeda. It was just like ridiculous. And now we're doing it again. You share the same religion as a billion other people on this planet, and the faction of those people that believe in, extremism, you also share those views just because you guys pray the same way. And you can say that out loud. People aren't calling them out. That as an elected official should be enough to get you removed from office. I know we're supposed to be about free speech and stuff like that, but that's literally that's so ridiculous. That should be enough to get you removed from office. And it's just it's disgusting and vile behavior. But not to be outdone. Not to be outdone. There's a congressman, Brandon Gill. He's talking about, okay, now he's going to be elected. We're going to hear Muslim calls to prayer. If you want to hear a call to prayer, go back to your Muslim country. Okay, you don't want to hear a call to prayer. I also don't want to hear church bells, but I'm not telling people to go back to Rome when the Catholic Church rings their bells. Like it's just so ridiculous. Like a call to prayer, you don't believe in that religion, sure. And then the same people that talk about like everybody being so offended all the time, hearing a call to prayer that they've never heard. If this hypothetical call to prayer, call it oppressive and offensive, like just get over yourself. We keep hearing people say we're a Christian country. No, we're not. There's a separation of church and state. It's supposed to stay that way. The only thing we worship is money, which is why our money says in God we trust. And then to not be outdone, Greg Abbott had to say something. He always has to say something. If you're coming from New York to Texas, there's going to be a 100% tariff or something like that, which I don't think he has the authority to even do that. But just talking out his ass. That's what people do. And we have all these people that are just trying to scare you, trying to cause this division, and it's so ridiculous. Like, we are so fractured, and it's so bad. It's so disheartening. How many times, if you listen to people talk about this election in New York, how many times have you heard people say there's going to be Sharia law in New York? They don't even know what that means. All right, let's just generalize it really quick. Conservative Islamist views based on the Quran. If you knew anything about Mamdani's policy, the fact that he's running as the progressive person, he, while still being Muslim, I'm not the faith police here, is probably in his public life as far from conservative Islamists as you can be. Private life, I don't know. Maybe behind his, like in his house, he does whatever. Who cares? That's their private life. I can tell you just from the fact that his wife, and again, this is not me being the religion police, but his wife, the way, and I'm not saying she's dressing inappropriately, but you see her face, you see her arms, you see her legs, even her wedding dress, you could see her legs, right? That's that's neither good nor bad, but it's not what you would see under Sharia law. So if his own personal marriage isn't like that, why would he try to apply that to a city? And first of all, that's illegal. Like, you can't just change a city policy to follow your faith. That's not how things work. And a bunch of people that are spreading that know that's not how things work, but you know what they don't believe? They don't believe you're smart enough to understand that. So they try to brainwash you into being afraid. They say he's pro Hamas when he openly called for putting down the arms, stopping the genocide. Just because you're anti-Zionist doesn't mean that you're pro Hamas. Like, they're just throwing all these things that you could easily debunk, but they don't think that you're smart enough to do the work. So they just say things hoping that you believe it and that you will be up in arms against this man. Like, calling him radical Islamist when this man's pro-choice, pro-LGBTQIA, like that, it's just, people are eating it up. Like, people just know they can say whatever, and they know that half is being nice. They know like 75% of us are just so gullible. We're just going to hear that, never think to do our own due diligence and roll with it. Your leaders, and I say leaders like with air quotes, your leaders are blinding you. They're leading you astray. Like, why can't we just be open with people and let them make the decision that they believe in based on this truth and reality versus this truth and reality? But the reason they have to convince you to believe in their lies is because they know that the truth that they stand on isn't good for you. It's good for them because they just want to stay in power. So, like, obviously, and there was, the first, I think is the first woman to be elected governor in Virginia or something like that, too. And it was a white woman that was running as a Democrat versus a black woman running as a Republican. And to be honest, Trump made a comment about this, and he said that, they didn't do well because my name wasn't on the ticket. And if that's just not the biggest endorsement of like the cult following of him, then I don't know what is. But yeah, that's my take on the mayor election for the biggest city in America. Like, cool. Policy wise, whatever, we'll see what happens. I'll be shocked if someone like that has as progressive of a mind as that gets to actually implement things, but he got his foot in the door. So, like, cool, good for them. And if they don't like it, someone else comes in a few years. Like, it's really that straightforward. Even if he had all the ideas that people say he has, he can't just implement them. That's just not how things work. And I wish we would stop trying to use shock and outrage to change elections. Like, all these people that are like, well, I'm leaving New York City. I'm leaving New York City. Probably not, to be honest, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. And all of us in all the other parts of the country that care so much all of a sudden about New York City, one day you're like, I'm never traveling to New York City. Why would I go to that hellhole, that cesspool? All they have are rats, and it's so dirty. The crime is so bad. And now all of a sudden we care so much about what happens in New York City, whatever. My own personal version of the New York City situation, my hometown of Minneapolis, all right? They had a Democratic Socialist going against the incumbent that was also a Democrat, but people have been criticizing him for not thinking that he's, I guess, progressive enough. And what is funny about it is you have all these people. So this is a more local thing for me, but you have all these people that are like, Minneapolis is a hellhole. Minneapolis is turned into this. Minneapolis is that. I hate that city so much. So then a Somalian Democratic Socialist runs for mayor of Minneapolis, saying that they want to continue to aggressively reform the Minneapolis Police Department, not cut it, or they want to work on more equitable and acquirable housing. We want to keep the city cleaner, make public transit better. Classic, the government level will help make things better. Okay. And then the same mayor that all these people have claimed to hate for so long, especially coming from the more conservative side of things, the incumbent Frey, he all of a sudden they're his biggest supporter, right? They're like, oh, they need to keep him. Well, a year ago he was a wacko, weak liberal leftist mayor, but you see him going against a Somalian, and now all of a sudden, if they don't, the city that you already claim was falling apart and burning, well, if they don't elect him, your city's going to fall apart and burn. Like, and what it comes down to is it's xenophobic, it's racist. And what's crazy about it is Omar, the name of the guy that didn't win the mayor's seat, he's born in Washington, D.C., used to spend time in Minneapolis as a kid, probably had some family there. Minneapolis has a lot of Somalian people. Moved back to Minneapolis, got involved in local government, but he's American. He's born in America. We have people that are calling him Islamists, extremists, all these things, and whatever. If we want to just focus on policy and say we don't agree with him because of policy, that's fine. You can not agree with someone because of policy, but to like just be so xenophobic and racist is just so crazy. It makes me change how I view people that I know. And I'm talking about people that I thought were all about progressive measures. When they see it coming from a Somalian person, they've convinced themselves that because this person is of Somalian heritage and that Minneapolis has a lot of Somalians in it, that this person's going to actually not stand up for anything that's not empowering Somalian people. So if you think people are only, it's the same thing as New York. If you think that those people that were running for mayor are only going to empower people that come from their community, then why don't you feel that way about the ruling class, which has primarily been white people? So you think that when Barack Obama ran for president, people were like, he's only going to try to help black people, which is funny because so many black people think he didn't do enough for black people. When these people that practice Islam are running for office, we are so convinced that they are only going to try and help people of their faith. But for some reason, when a person that's white and Christian run for office, are you convinced that they're only going to try to help white Christian people? That thought probably never crosses your mind. So you're fearful of people that aren't from the background that you're used to. And but if I were to say that, well, every single white politician has only tried to advance the interests of white people, you would say I was crazy. And although a lot of them did do that, I wouldn't say that all of them do that. But if I had that logic, you would call me crazy. But you can have that logic about other people and you'd be like, well, it's totally valid. So I don't know. Just have you ever thought about that? Like that? I don't know. That's food for thought, I guess. But it's just a reminder that we just live in this incredibly low trust and bigoted society, right? Same people that calling this place a cesspool, all of a sudden when they see someone that looks different than their status quo trying to get into that cesspool and have some different ideas to make it better, they're just like, wait a second, we need change. But when I say change, we really just need to make it so it's better for people like us and not people like you. I don't know. I don't know. These ideas that we're trying to stick to, free market, all of that, that is literally what has led us to the situation we're in right now. Okay. It is not working. The rich people are richer than ever. The richest 1% of America is as rich as the bottom half. 1,000 people, if even that many, that 1,000 people, 2,000 people have as much as almost 200 million. Okay. If you hear that and you think that's okay, and that's getting even more, that divide's getting more stark. If you hear that and you think that's okay, and you're like, well, let's keep this same system, it's going to work, we just need to implement a few things, like, you're so out of touch. And I'm not saying going full blown socialist is the answer, because I don't know the answer, but what the answer is, not keep doing the same thing. It's really that straightforward. And people are starting to vote in ways that reflect that. And so, like, we got to get outside of that that two-sided system that has led us to the train wreck we are in as a country. Don't let the president get on TV and tell you prices are going down when you can see and feel that it's not. Prices are not going down. There are people that can't buy food. Maybe somehow the cost of buying a barrel from overseas has gone down, but that's still not affecting what we're seeing at the pump, right? Utilities are just only getting higher. So there's some kind of disconnect somewhere. We're still getting the shaft somehow. They want you to look across the aisle and blame this side versus this side. Both sides have failed. And until people are feeling better, it's going to drive people further apart, because we're being told one thing when we have eyes and we have stomachs. People are hungry. People can see things are not getting better. And that's unfortunately just the reality of it. And wanting all people to have the same access, the same ability to achieve and thrive, is not oppressing people that have an advantage. Helping people that are at a disadvantage is not oppressing people that have an advantage. Seeing more representation of other things is not oppressing you. We got to stop being so sensitive about that. It's just so ridiculous. What's funny is I just wanted to give like a quick little shout out, a little blurb about election results and about how insanely Islamophobic we are. But instead, it turned into like a half-hour rant about me just being disgusted with people's behavior. You're not going to save enough voting for conservative tax ideas for it to be worth the representative you voted in to be calling people terrorists. Like, half these people are bought out by a foreign government, and it's just, I don't know, it's interesting. I don't want to say the name of the government that is in people's pockets that are so anti-democratic socialists, especially if that democratic socialist happens to believe in the Quran, but you know who it is. And calling that out, saying people are going to, be biased towards their religion while you're doing the work of arguably I'm not going to say another religion, because there's a difference between the country and the religion that the people believe in. But I think you know what I'm talking about here. That's just crazy hypocrisy. The play is divide and conquer, and people are tired of, you can't be mad that people are starting to fight fire with fire. I always hear this term about the tolerant left. Oh, the tolerant left is cheering on someone's death. People are celebrating Dick Cheney dying. Like, again, can you be surprised? People are tired of things that represent forever wars, that represent trying to get their right to get married taken away. Whether their celebrations are justified or not, you got to understand that that's where it's coming from. Because one group of people are just like, hey, we want to do what we want in peace, and if that means we're in a commercial or if it's in a movie, whatever, we're not forcing you to change your life. And other people are just like, fuck you, you shouldn't exist. And somehow we're just like, well, you got to hear both sides. Like, it's, I don't know. Sorry, my little 10-minute review of Election Tuesday turned into a 30-minute rant, but we'll be back to regular scheduled program and a couple new episodes on the horizon. So thanks for stopping by. Y'all be easy. Peace.